This is your station. This is Dot TV. Dot TV. Dot TV. Yeah. Dot TV. Yeah. Dot TV. Yeah. Dot TV.
Dott TV, the heart of the matter.
In the heart of Asaba, where the street tells the stories every single day.
From the corridors of powers to the decisions shaping governance and politics in Delta and Nigeria.
From traders counting every naira to families battling rising costs and uncertain times.
From football pitches to sporting successes to the major developments making the headlines all over the world.
And from the untold human stories, the struggles, victories, resilience, and hope of the everyday Nigerians.
This is the news beyond the headlines. Dot TV News are your trusted window to stories that truly matter to the people. Here, we don't just report events, we tell the human stories behind them.
Hello and welcome to Dot TV Media News. I am Priscilla Ifanye. We'll start on a rather sad note where 2 persons are reportedly feared dead and 5 others receiving treatment after a tipper loaded with bricks lost control following a tire burst at College Junction in Agbo this morning. According to eyewitness, the truck rammed into pedestrians and commercial motorcycles conveying commuters, including students heading to school and workers on their way to their places of employment. Eyewitness said a total of 8 persons were involved in the crash. 2 victims were confirmed dead at the scene and their bodies were taken to the mortuary. One victim who was severely injured was referred to another hospital for urgent medical attention, while the remaining 5 who sustained critical injuries were taken to the Central Hospital Agbo for treatment. As of the time of filing this report, the figures and circumstances surrounding the crash has not been officially affirmed by the relevant authorities. Away from that sad development, Delta State government has announced plans to convene a security summit aimed at strengthening, collaborating, and developing security challenges across the state. According to the statement signed by the Secretary to the State Governor Kingsley Aimo, the 2026 Security Summit will hold on Wednesday, June 17 at Unity Hall, Government House, Asaba, at 10 a.m. prompt. The summit themed Security, a Collective Responsibility will be hosted by Delta State Governor Sheriff Uboyewori with key stakeholders from across the state to deliberate on strategies for enhancing peace, safety, and security. Aimo emphasized that security remains a shared responsibility requiring the active participation of government institutions, security agencies, community leaders, and citizens. Meanwhile, the Federal High Court in Abuja has ordered the deregistration of African Democratic Congress and 4 others over failure to meet the constitutional requirements for political parties in the country. The 5 affected political parties are the ADC, the Accord, the Action Alliance, the Action People's Parties, and the Zenith Labour Party. In a judgment, Justice Peter Lifu ordered Independent National Electoral Commission to register the affected parties having failed to secure 25% of the votes in the last general elections in compliance with the provision of the law. Justice Lifu, who earlier dismissed all the multiple objections filed by the defendants ordered by INEC not to allow the parties to participate in subsequent elections, including 2027 general constitutional threshold. Also, a group named the Incorporated Trustees of National Forum of Former Legislatures has filed a suit against the 5 political parties. Also, in a swift action by the African Democratic Congress, they have opposed the Federal High Court ruling directing the National Electoral Commission to deregister the party and 4 others, describing the judgment as an attempt to use the judiciary to undermine Nigerians' democratic process. In a statement posted on X, its National Publicity Secretary Bolaji Abdullahi said the party condemns the ruling as unconstitutional and deeply troubling. The decision runs contrary to established legal precedents and even conflicts with positions previously advanced by INEC on the issue of political party deregistration. The ADC maintained that the INEC has expressed defendants' party status before the court, arguing that it remained fully compliant with all constitutional and statutory requirements for political parties. In the meantime, the ADC has picked former Rivers State Governor and former Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi as the running mate to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar for the 2027 presidential election. The party said Amechi's emergence followed extensive consultation and reflected his performance as runner-up in the ADC presidential primaries, as well as his record in public service. Announcing the decision in a statement on Monday, the ADC National Publicity Secretary Malam Bolaji Abdullahi described the Atiku's Amechi ticket as a unity and rescue ticket capable of addressing Nigerians' challenges. According to the party, Amechi's political and administrative experience makes him well-suited for the role, having served as Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly and 2-term Governor of Rivers State and Minister of Transportation. And back to Delta State, where the governorship candidate of the Austin Okolie-led faction of the African Democratic Congress in Delta State, Emmanuel Onuafe, has dismissed claims that Chief Great Ogboru is the party's governorship candidate, insisting that he remains the legitimate flag bearer of his faction. In a statement posted in his official Facebook page, he said he had reached out to Ogboru and other stakeholders in a bid to unite the party, stressing that his efforts were rather aimed at promoting unity rather than deepening divisions. He maintained that he was the candidate through obtained due process and could not be taken away through intimidations and media declaration. The development comes amid continued competing claims over the ADC governorship tickets in Delta State. And to Adamawa, where the People's Democratic Party has recorded a sweeping victory in the Adamawa state local government elections, winning all 21 local government chairmanship seats and the 2026 councillorship positions across the states. The results were announced by the chairman of the Adamawa State Independent Electoral Commission, Mohammed Umar, at the commission's headquarters in Yola, following the completion of the coalition process. The declaration was made in the presence of security personnel, election observers, representatives of political parties, and ADSEC commissioners. According to Umar, the elections were conducted across all the 2 to 6 wards in the state, with the PDP emerging victorious in every chairmanship councillorship contest. And now to the FCT, where proceedings in the ongoing corruption trial of former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai continued on Monday at the Federal High Court sitting in the state's capital. El-Rufai was brought to court at about 9:30 a.m., accompanied by the officials of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission and operatives of the Department of State Services and the Nigerian Police Force. The case brought by the ICPC involves allegation of abuse of office, fraud, and financial misconduct during his tenure as governor. Prosecutors allege that funds were improperly released for projects that were either not executed or were irregularly managed. El-Rufai has denied all the charges and maintained his innocence. Still ahead on the news day, Nigeria's inflation rises to 15.93% in May, plus foreign and sports stories coming up after this time out. Please stay with us.
In the heart of Asaba, where the street tells the stories every single day.
From the corridors of powers to the decisions shaping governance and politics in Delta and Nigeria.
From traders counting every naira to families battling rising costs and uncertain times.
From football pitches to sporting successes to the major developments making the headlines all over the world.
And from the untold human stories, the struggles, victories, resilience, and hope of the everyday Nigerians.
This is the news beyond the headlines. Dott TV News are your trusted window to stories that truly matter to the people. Here, we don't just report events, we tell the human stories behind them.
Thanks for still being there, and now to the rest of our stories. Nigeria's headline inflation rate rose to 15.93% in May 2026, and that's according to the latest Consumer Price Index reports. The National Bureau of Statistics data show that the Consumer Price Index increased to 140.7 in May 2026, representing a 2.4 raise from the previous month 138.3, indicating continued upward pressure and consumer prices across the economy. Although the month-on-month inflation rate moderated, the annual inflation rate continued in its upward trend, rising from 15.38% in March to 15.69% in April, before reaching the 15.93% in May. The latest record marks the third consecutive hike in 2026. And now to Anambra State, where the Anambra State Police Command has arrested two suspects allegedly involved in production and distribution of adulterated alcoholic beverages in the state. The suspect, identified as Ikechukwu Okeke and Okeke Chukwemeka, were arrested in the early hours of Monday by the operatives of the Rapid Response Squad, following credible intelligence received by the police. Confirming their arrest in a statement on Monday, the state police spokesperson Tochukwu Ikenga said the suspects are currently in police custody, while the exhibits recovered from them have been secured for forensic examination and evidential purpose. Among the items recovered from the suspects are Seaman Schnapps, McDowell's Eagle Schnapps, Elliot's Hot Drinks, and Bailey's Fresh Creams, as well as dangerous chemicals allegedly used in the production process. Still in Anambra, where a 33-year-old man, Ifechukwu Okechukwu, has been arrested by the Anambra State Police Command for allegedly killing his 23-year-old girlfriend and secretly burying her in Nkwo, Anambra State. The suspect was among 4 other suspects nabbed over alleged murder and child abuse in separate incidents committed across the states. The suspects were arrested following trending videos and credible information from concerned members of the public. A press statement issued by the command spokesperson Tochukwu Ikenga said the command intercepted a training video of exhumption of a corpse in Nkwo and that of a 10-year-old boy inflicted with various degrees of injuries all over his body. Outside Anambra, the Federal Capital Territory Police Command has arrested 5 suspects linked to a kidnapping and banditry network operating on the outskirts of Abuja, including a heavily pregnant woman who served as a cook and logistics supplier for their criminal gang and hostages. The FCT Commissioner of Police, Ahmed Sanusi, while parading the suspects before journalists in Abuja on Monday, said the arrest followed a clearance operation at the Bazin area of the FCT on June 11, 2026, during which some bandits were arrested, others were neutralized, and victims were rescued. According to him, the woman identified as Hawa Shafi was heavily pregnant as at the time of the arrest, but had continued to supply food and logistics to the gang and their captors. He added that upon her arrest, he ordered that she be taken to a hospital where she subsequently gave birth. In another news, the Federal Ministry of Education has denied reports that the Nigerian's Education Management Information System was hacked, insisting that the platform remains secure and no cyber attack occurred. The ministry was reacting to a report titled "Suspected Cyber Attack Hits Federal Government's Education Data Platform," which suggested that the education data platform may have been compromised. In a statement issued on Tuesday and signed by the Director of the Press and Public Relations, Folashade Boriowo, the ministry described the report as inaccurate and misleading, saying that the temporary warning message was seen by some users because by an SSL certificate configuration issue at the hosting level rather than a security breach. And now to health, as Nigeria enters the peak of rainy season, public health authorities are confronting a familiar deadly threat, cholera. The waterborne disease has resurfaced and part of the northern Nigeria, claiming lives and infecting thousands, particularly in Plateau and Borno State, while other states are intensifying surveillance and preparedness measures to prevent outbreaks within their borders. For health experts, the outbreak are a reminder of the country's persistent challenge with access to clean water, poor sanitation, inadequate hygiene practices, population displacement, and weak public health infrastructure. They warn that unless urgent preventive measures are sustained, more states could witness a rise in infections in the coming weeks. And for some foreign news stories, here's Nkechi Chukwudi.
US President Donald Trump may decide to release a preliminary deal to end the war with Iran before Friday, and that's according to Vice President J.D. Vance. This is just as Vance described the Memorandum of Understanding between the United States and Iran as about a page and a half, and a very general document. Senior US officials have also begun giving some details about the deal, briefing that the Strait of Hormuz will reopen on Friday, the same day the deal is formally inked in Geneva. It comes as Trump attends the G7 summit in France, which will on Tuesday host a special session about Iran, attended by the leaders of Egypt, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. Meanwhile, an overnight Russian barrage of missiles killed at least 11 people across Ukraine and sparked a fire at one of the most important Orthodox monasteries in the capital of Kyiv. AFP journalists across Kyiv witnessed residents running through the streets seeking shelter throughout the night as projectiles were intercepted in the sky and glowing debris fell across the city. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Monday called for more pressure on Moscow from G7 leaders gathering at the summit in France, said to be dominated by the US-Iranian deal to end the Middle East war. He also said he told US President Donald Trump he was willing to meet Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in the United States, calling it an offer Putin would find harder to refuse. The violence killed 5 people and wounded 34 in Kyiv as a fire broke out on the grounds of the Kyiv Parchek Laver UNESCO World Heritage Site, setting ablaze the roof of its Domitian Cathedral. Elsewhere, 8 people, including 2 Boeing employees, have been killed after a U.S. Air Force B-52 bomber crashed immediately after takeoff from Edwards Air Force Base in Southern California. The incident occurred at 11:20 local time on Monday while the aircraft had been on a routine test mission. The crash sent a huge plume of black smoke into the air that could be seen for miles. No cause has yet been determined and will not be until after a series of investigations, which could take up to 30 days. It is reported that further cause analysis investigations could take more than 6 months. Boeing confirmed in a separate statement that 2 of its employees had been among those on board and said the company was in contact with their families. Still on the international scene, Japan's central bank has increased its main interest rate to a new 31-year high after a surge in global energy prices. On Tuesday, the Bank of Japan raised its so-called policy rate to 1% from 0.75%, a level not seen yet since 1995. The decision comes as some other central banks have raised their interest rates this year as the US-Israel war with Iran pushed up the cost of living. Japan's interest rates were cut aggressively in the 1990s to combat the fallout from a collapse in prices of assets like property and shares. They had been near zero for decades as the price fell and growth stagnated. Nkechi Chukwudi, Dott Television News.
Thank you very much, Nkechi. Up next is Sports News with Anthony Uche.
Sports news this hour. We begin with World Cup results from last night and early this morning. Cape Verde held European champion Spain to a goalless draw in the first major shocker of the ongoing FIFA World Cup 2026. Cape Verde 40-year-old goalkeeper Vozinha made 7 saves in a man-of-the-match performance to keep Spain out as the African nation earned their first World Cup points on their debut at the global showpiece. Other World Cup results include Belgium playing out a 1-0 draw with Egypt. Uruguay equalized late with a goal from Maxi Arujo to earn a point. There was also another draw between Iran and New Zealand as the Day 5 rounded off with a 2-2 draw. Meanwhile, Tunisia have sacked head coach Sabri Lamouchi and replaced him with Hervé Renard after losing 5-1 to Sweden in their opening game at the World Cup. Lamouchi is the first manager to ever be sacked one game into a World Cup campaign, having only been appointed in January following Sami Trabelsi's departure. In the meantime, Day 6 of the FIFA World Cup is also packed with interesting matches, with Lionel Messi, Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland potentially being in action with their countries. France take on African champions Senegal. Iraq make their World Cup bow against Norway, who are returning to the World Cup after 28 years. Defending champions Argentina begin their title defense against Riyad Mahrez and Algeria, whilst Austria and Jordan round off Day 6. Anthony Uche, Dott TV News.
Thank you very much, Anthony. And that's a wrap on the media news on Dott TV. Thank you for joining us. I am Priscilla Ifani.
In the heart of Asaba, where the street tells the stories every single day.
From the corridors of powers to the decisions shaping governance and politics in Delta and Nigeria.
From traders counting every naira to families battling rising costs and uncertain times.
From football pitches to sporting successes to the major developments making the headlines all over the world.
And from the untold human stories, the struggles, victories, resilience, and hope of the everyday Nigerians.
This is the news beyond the headlines. Dot TV News are your trusted window